Please wait. And there we go. We are now live. Let me go ahead and let the theme music play up. Oh, and you guys can't hear it. Let me share my screen. There we go.
I can hear it.
Oh yeah, I can hear it.
Okay, lovely. Well, folks, welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of Late Night Serotonin. Today we're going to be talking about some lovely topics, the economy, the Republicans going crazy, just look at the title, and I have some wonderful guests today. I'll give them a chance to introduce themselves. I welcome you all to the show. Like the stream if you enjoy it, subscribe for more weekly episodes, and with that, I turn it over to my guests. PK, shout yourself out.
Howdy everybody, I'm PKK Dakota on TikTok. Most people just call me Dakota or PK. And I make a lot of videos about leftist action in rural communities.
All right, wonderful. And Sue, shout yourself out.
Hi, I'm Sub, or you can call me Sabby, Sabrina, whatever works. But I usually go by Sub. And I make basically musical type content. I make just stuff with my ukulele and my little ghost persona. And yeah.
All right, wonderful. And for those who may be joining us for the first time this night, I'm Lady Avalon, the host of Serotonin Studios. I'm a transgender, lesbian, socialist, polyamorous, disabled atheist, and I'm a ginger. Find which one of those you find most offensive and comment down below. With that, I'm going to go ahead and close out the theme song for tonight. And we're going to be talking about the Republican economy and the Republicans' plan for taxes, because I think it's absolutely insane. So let's talk about it for a little bit. What is this 30% sales tax that Republicans are pushing? Well, they've been discussing a plan to basically wipe out the IRS. They want to get rid of the IRS, and they want to replace a bunch of different taxes with a 30% federal sales tax, which means everything you buy, from your groceries to video games to socks and t-shirts, will become 30% more expensive in a time where we are already strapped for cash. Republicans do this. Biden, I think, put it best when he said, these guys are fiscally demented. They don't quite get it. They want a national sales tax, he said in a tone of disbelief, and I couldn't agree more. American families need more breathing room, not less. This would put a disproportionate amount of pressure on the working class people of America and would make life a lot easier for the wealthy. You see, the IRS, the institution that the Republicans want to dismantle and abolish with this, it was recently funded. For years it had been anemic, but it was recently fully funded so that it could start going after wealthy tax cheats, aka the 1%, aka the exact people who fund Republican primaries and Republican elections. So Republicans panic. We can't have, the party of law and order doesn't want law and order to be enforced for rich people. That would be ridiculous. No, instead, the second the IRS gets funding to go after wealthy tax cheats, instead, they go to abolish the IRS and instead replace a bunch of taxes like the estate tax or gift taxes, taxes that disproportionately affect the rich. They want to abolish those and instead replace it all with a 23% sales tax. But the numbers have been crunched. If we want America to have anywhere close to the same amount of tax revenue that we do now, they wouldn't keep it at 23%. They'd have to raise it up to 30%, which is where that 30% number is coming from. If they want to just break even with where America is right now, they'd need to impose a 30% sales tax, which is ridiculous and irresponsible. Instead of taxing the most wealthy, or at the bare minimum, enforcing the fact that the wealthiest people need to pay the pittance of taxes they already pay. No, instead, they want to get rid of the IRS. They want to make it easy for rich people and, at the expense, screw over the working class of this country. I think this is absolutely disgusting and abhorrent. Groceries and clothes and basic store-bought goods, from rice to beans, have already doubled in the last couple of years, doubled in price. It used to be that a can of beans or some rice you could get for like 99 cents, about $1. And those were staple goods of poor working class households. I know, because my family is poor and working class. I'm poor and working class, and I am disabled. And so we make those decisions. And in the last couple of years, ever since, COVID and the economy, took a hit, we've seen those basic store-bought goods get more expensive. Gas got really expensive and it's slowly coming back down again. That's great. Republicans would reverse that improving economy. Under the Biden administration, jobs have gone up, wages have gone up in a few sectors. Things have slowly started to get better after the hit that COVID did on the economy. But Republicans want to reverse that and impose a 30%. 30%! That's insane! Make things 30% more expensive. I know one of our guests, PK Dakota, has done some of the numbers on just how much more expensive that would be, to put it in a little bit of perspective. But for me, I'll stick to the general idea. Republicans always talk about being fiscally responsible. But they never actually really believe it, as this goes to show, as the fact that, Republicans say they're more fiscally conservative, but they don't spend less than Democrats. In fact, the economy has always done better under Democrats. It's either the debt has been paid off better, or people have been cared for, or America has made more money under Democrats than conservatives. Because what do conservatives do? What do the Republican parties do? What's their economic agenda? Well, tax cut after tax cut after tax cut for the wealthy people, and then steadily raise taxes on the working class, which really just goes to show their entire political position, despite all the culture war stuff, but despite their, sadistic hatred of queer people and minorities. When it all comes down to it, when it comes down to brass tacks, these people are in service to the 1%. They are going to make life better for their rich friends and their rich donors, and they're going to make life harder for the working class. It started with Reagan and trickle-down economics and massive, massive tax cuts and deregulation. And ever since then, it's been a tug of war between Democrats trying to get wealthy people to pay their taxes, and Republicans writing tax cuts for the rich and shuffling all of that now added expenses onto the poor. I'll wrap up my ramble with this. Folks, I've said before, I reported on this in my regular show, that I hope this breaks the Republican Party, because I don't see how anyone can vote for a party that is actively sabotaging the economy of the working class people. And while some people have raised some skepticism about that, maybe they might get by on culture war stuff, but I see this done by the Freedom Party, a radical group within the Republican Party, that a splinter group of the Republican Party might very well ring the death knell for the entire party. Because the average person is going to hear about the prices going up. They're going to feel that in their wallets. People are already living paycheck to paycheck. They're already pinching pennies just to get by. They're already, saving coupons and doing whatever they can just to get by as things get more expensive, and their wages aren't really increasing to meet that. They've gone up a little bit in some places, but not everywhere, and not enough. I think this might actually hurt the Republican Party's numbers, because while, yes, the radical base might be totally bought in on hating queer people and calling them groomers and being in the culture war. But your average Republican, your moderate Republican, your independents, I don't think they're going to stick by the party after this. I think this would very well crush the Republican numbers because the Republican Party is going to fucking bankrupt like half of America. I'll wrap up my thing there, and I'll turn it over to my guest. PK, why don't you go ahead and give us your opening statement?
Well, I'm glad you brought up the whole demented thing because that's truly what they are. I don't think people realize how much hatred Republicans have for working class Americans. I remember about 5 years ago, I was in DC for a Caps game, and the hotel I stayed at, I was eating breakfast one morning, and it was a pretty nice hotel, but it was a bunch of business people talking about Trump's fumbling of how economics in America was going and how shitty it was for everybody. And one of the responses one of the guys gave was a laugh and, well, I don't really give a fuck. I've already made my millions. So, like, they really don't care. They're like, well, I'm not poor. I'm not going to get poorer. Why do I care if the poor people are suffering? And with the numbers, like you said, I was just doing general things of what someone like me would buy, like a new video game. If I took $60 and put in 30% increase, that makes it over $75. And we're not including the sales tax for a county. Gas is taxed differently. Sales tax for the state is taxed differently. So it wouldn't just be a 30% tax on the thing you buy. It would be 30% plus a 7% plus what is gas, like 3%? It would make things go, it more than double, if not triple, the price of a lot of products. And scaling it up to, like I said, the TV. If you bought a decent TV for like $600 after you put all the taxes on it, it's almost $400 or $500 more. And if you scale it up to like a house or a car, I mean, there's literally not going to be any room for anyone below a certain tax bracket to even live, let alone be able to like maybe go to Disneyland or fly home to see family. Because if you buy that ticket, or if you buy something on Amazon now, they calculate tax to where you live into your order. So you can't even get away with ordering something online to see if you can get it cheaper because now you're just paying shipping on top of the taxes.
All right. Sue, how about you go ahead and give us your opening statement?
Well, as someone who is also working class myself, I think this, and I'm also a college student at the same time, and I don't even drive yet because owning a car and paying money for that right now it would be way too much, but like up on top of funds for college. Like I wonder how this might affect that as well. And just, well, it would affect everything because living as a college student, like we can barely pay rent where we are, like and we can barely buy groceries where we are, and this would just make all of that intensely worse. And it's already a struggle enough. Like, I want to learn how to drive someday, and I want to own a car and build upon what I already have, but with these taxes, like, how would I even be able to do that? And it's terrifying, honestly. It's terrifying as someone like me who is already, like, being, like, I don't know, like, when you already have mental issues that you have to, like, keep up on your meds as well, and, like, and have all of these things that do cost money over time, and insurance and everything. And like, I'm still young, but eventually I'm going to have my own insurance, and all of that just piles and piles on top of each other. And if taxes get worse, then it just makes life difficult for those who are just barely starting their lives, like me. So yeah, that's where my standpoint is.
All right, so then let's get into the discussion of this. You know, I mentioned in my opening monologue that this was started primarily by a fringe group of Republicans called the Freedom Caucus, about 20 or so Republicans. In fact, those same 20 that Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy fought 15 rounds of votes to get their approval, you know. And this leads me to wonder, clearly they have gained a lot of power with that battle over the Speaker of the House. And Kevin McCarthy agreed to bring this to table, to let it even be heard when he was fighting for their votes. So then the question then becomes, is it going to have much of an impact? Is it going to pass? What are we going to see from there? Thankfully, good news to the audience. This is unlikely to pass. I said before how Biden said it was fiscally demented and irresponsible. Biden has pledged to veto this bill should it make it to his desk, but it's unlikely to do so because it has to make it past the Senate, which is thankfully Democrat controlled, which will keep America, on the right track for the time being. This is going to be an instance where the gridlock will work in our favor, as Republicans will be unable to, all of their worst legislation, they're going to be unable to pass it through the Democrat-controlled Senate and through the Democrat-controlled White House. So that's good news. It means we're in a bit of a holding pattern, and all that's going to happen is the domino effect from previous policies that were passed, and with executive orders that Biden can write, and we'll work with that to get as much progress as we can. But any meaningful legislation is currently dead on arrival, stalled. So then what is the point then of this? Republicans know this, we know this. What is the point? Republicans are, well, at least this fringe group is mostly doing it to further their next campaign. They're already campaigning for 2024, and 2024 is also going to be the next presidential run. So they're gearing up for that, teeing up whoever it's going to be. Is it going to be Donald Trump again? He's already announced he's going to run. Or is it possibly going to be Ron DeSantis, who has signaled and worked very hard to get himself into the conversation of being a 2024 run? And strategically, best case scenario for us is that they both run, split the vote, and then a Democrat comes in and sweeps. Let's talk then.
Yeah, that's kind of scary too.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you mentioned, this might be finally the straw that breaks the Republicans' back as far as their credibility as a party. I don't think so, because we've said that time and time again. We've been saying it for 20 plus years. There's no way they can survive this, and then somehow they're Teflon. It's their voters and their base just go, yeah, whatever. We'll still vote for him because at least it's not one of those demons.
Yeah, that is true. One of the commenters in the YouTube video I did on talking about this, they said never underestimate people who are motivated by hatred. And that is unfortunately a concerning number of Republicans and even Republican voters, is that they're the cultivated and trained hatred from the media personas, cultivate an audience, cultivate an atmosphere of fear and hatred of not just Democrats, but what Democrats represent, I gotta be honest. I think you're right on that. Here's my disagreement with how maybe Republicans are too far gone. Is that this is going to hurt most Republicans where they're most vulnerable, which is their wallets. Not Republican politicians, sure, but the average Republican voter, the average American. This is going to that bill would foster a lot of hostility in Americans, and it would be very easy for Democrats to just go, yeah, they wrote the bill. That was them. That's their fault. The rising prices, that's because they wrote that bill. You know, Republicans did a similar thing when they blamed Biden for the rising price of oil, even though he's not directly in control of the oil. Whereas Democrats could easily go, hey, they literally wrote this bill and they're the ones that are trying to put it into effect. That is why everything is getting much more expensive. I don't see a good way where Republicans can be like, yes, I wrote that bill. Yes, I voted for it. But also don't blame me for the consequences of that bill. I just don't see how that could make it past the average American voter. I think that's why I think this is special, is because economics tend to motivate people a lot more than social issues. You know what I mean?
I do, but there's also the litmus test of like, I can't remember exactly which state, but it was about the abortion stuff. And they're like, well, we didn't know this would happen. We're so sorry this is happening. We might do something about it. When everyone
Oh
started getting
yeah,
really upset at them, they just kind of was like, no. They just
where
played dumb, and then all of a sudden it went away.
yeah, where they where the abortion bill, where they wrote it, where people started dying because they couldn't get ectopic pregnancies started affecting women really badly, and Republicans are like, well, you need approval from like a lawyer to before you get this medical procedure done, and if it happens too late, you can die from that. That is a rather good and depressing point. So I guess our main point of comfort is the fact that it's not going to pass. So then let's talk. What other policies do we think that the Republicans are going to try and pass going forward? What are they going to try and campaign on? You know, this is rather a naked example of rich people going, hey, could you do us a favor and get rid of estate taxes, get rid of, certain gift taxes and things like that, and get rid of the IRS, because the Biden administration just gave them all the funding they need to go and pop our heads like a pimple. So if you could get rid of that, that'd be great. What other bills and things like that? What Republican strategies should we be on the lookout going forward?
I think I want to hear from Sub on this, because I think they're going to be affected a lot by going to college and a lot of the stuff they're trying to force in and out of the education system with that.
Yeah, part of me is just like, oh God, I don't know what they would do, because there's already so much hatred or at least antagonism and antagonizing against both, LGBTQ community people and women, with everything that's happened in the past couple of years, and it's just like they're trying so hard to undo so much progress that has been made. So I really don't know what else they could try to do, other than what has already been like done. Like with taking away abortion rights, like that was like such a last straw for me. I'm just like, how much lower are they going to go? I don't really know.
Yeah, unfortunately, it does seem like we're all playing a game of like, just how evil can they be? How openly and performatively cruel can they be? And right. I think this is the 1-2 punch of the Republican Party. On the one hand, they've got all these culture war aspects of like, oh, queer people are groomers and yada 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 yada, and they're on those culture war talking points. And I think Tucker Carlson recently was talking about how he's back to talking about how the M&Ms aren't sexy enough. Weird man. Or like how the recent controversy, they're talking about like gas stoves and like, you can take my gas stove for my cold dead hands. They're on those culture war talking points, and on those they're willing to be as openly and obnoxiously cruel as possible to drum up support, because they have such a stigmatized, like cultivated stigmatized fear of the other, of you're not the in group, you're not a Republican, you're not a rich white Republican, then you are the other, you are the enemy, you are bad. So any amount of cruelty, any way that we can hurt the other is good. And then you have the other half, which they don't like to talk about as much because it doesn't market nearly as well, which is helping the rich at the expense of the poor. And that is, I think, an equally as insidious, I won't say far more insidious, but an equally as insidious and a serious problem, because, for years the IRS was emaciated until, after years of pushing, the Democrats managed to fully fund it. But the Republicans were behind emaciating the IRS for the specific reason that it would help out rich people. They were behind, they've always been behind, cutting Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. They were behind, like, crippling the U.S. Postal Office. That seems to be like one of the core Republican strategies, which is get into power and make the systems that help people objectively worse, emaciate them, defund them, give them a bunch of weird or archaic restrictions that hogties them and cripples their ability to be as truly effective and useful as possible. And then, once you're done doing that, turn around and go to everyone else. Look at how emaciated and crippled and useless these systems are. Government is no help. You should elect me so that I can get rid of these systems. Therefore, you won't have to deal with how useless they are. And that seems to be like the Republican running strategy. So
it really is. They're like magicians. They have like this magic hat, and they're like, defund. Oops, we've destroyed it. Now we need to eliminate it because it doesn't work.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and give everyone their closing statements and wrapping up their thoughts for tonight. Tonight is going to be a little bit of a shorter show, folks. So with that, Sub, go ahead and shout yourself out. Give any of your closing thoughts that you may have, and we'll start to end the show.
I suppose I just want to say that, with anything, I just hope things get better when it comes to this issue. And if you want, you can find me on my TikTok is Lavender May 404, like MAE, and on YouTube I am SoobTube, so SOOB Tube TUBE, and yeah, and hopefully I'll be posting a lot more as time goes on.
All right. PK, go ahead and shout yourself out and give your closing statements.
I'll start with my closing statements because this is kind of the holding pattern of the Republican Party. We've seen this when Obama got the presidency and they won back the House by a slim majority. They used it to come up with the work so bad in the Senate and the House that Obama was effectively neutered at passing anything meaningful. And then once that went on long enough, they could point to Democrats and go, see, they can't pass things, even though they were the ones controlling the Senate and the House and effectively not letting getting any meaningful legislation to his desk. And as always, the best way to stop a Nazi is to vote so you can oppose him and not let them get political power. And if you want to follow me on TikTok, my TikTok is PKK Dakota. And yeah, hopefully I'll see y'all some more this season.
All right, folks. And this is going to go ahead and conclude episode 2 of season 2 of Late Night Serotonin. Go ahead and like the stream. Follow for more weekly videos. We are here 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every week. And I'm going to go ahead and hit the... There we go. We got some new theme music. I like it.
Mhm.
Very jazzy. With that,
Yes.
folks, I've been Lady Avalon, host of Serotonin Studios. I do wish you have a good week, have a good evening, and please remember, maintain hope. The Republicans won't be able to pass this bill. We can still fight them. They're not going to get it through. The fight is not over. So go to bed, take some rest, wake up ready to fight the next morning, and solidarity forever. With that, I wish you all a good evening.